you know what? I'm going to give you one exception to the, if people see something 3 to 5 times, that's when they were going to remember it. Because one time, I said I might move the fireplace in my living room to another wall and open it up as all windows. And every time I show my living room, I get DMs saying, I thought you were moving your fireplace. I'm like, guys, that was one time in stories 4 years ago. And like, apparently everyone was on stories that day and never again.
This is the Good Influencer Podcast with Julia Marcum and Becca McLeod, pulling back the curtain of how this multi-billion-dollar industry works. If you're going to be an influencer, be a good one.
For today's episode, we are going to be diving deep into CLJ history to talk about the time that we got 2 weeks ahead in 2 weeks. And this really came from, it was 2022. We were at our retreat in January or February. I had been on the team like 5, maybe 6 months at this point. And you and Chris were like, sustainability is our goal this year, creating sustainable content, keeping mental health really high, and everything is great. And the way we're going to do that is by being 2 weeks ahead continuously. And we're going to do that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, forward facing, that's what we got. And it was really exciting, actually. But what was the conversation before that, leading up to the retreat?
Okay, so I think that we could sense that we had a smaller team at the time, 5 or 6 people. I can't remember exactly how many, but I could sense that burnout was real. And this was like back in the times where our annual meetings, like there were tears every year. And I think it was just like burnout. And I was feeling burnt out. I could tell the team was feeling burnt out because it was kind of like we were like very in the moment, reacting, planning content. It was, we'd have a meeting in the morning and then it would be like, okay, what are we posting tomorrow? And let's start producing the content for tomorrow at 1 p.m. Or sometimes it was 4:30 p.m. And I was like, I have to go finish this project really quick so that we can photograph it and write about it before it goes live tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I've always been kind of like a type B person where I'm just like, I'm just so confident in my ability to get something done that can be maybe somewhat less structured. But as our team was growing, I kind of realized like I can't be that type of leader, even though I might be that type of person. And I think, honestly, that has been the most difficult thing about what I do has actually been to learn how to be a manager over people, because that was never like my career path, or my strength. And so I was really like learning on the job, reading tons of books, listening to so many podcasts on how to like create a positive place to work. And I knew that getting 2 weeks ahead would really ease a lot of the stress that was building up on our team. Everyone could be on the same page. If someone got sick, which we still have only like one person in every department. Some departments we have 2 now, which is exciting. But at that point, it was like every person was in charge of a whole lot of things. And then if we weren't 2 weeks ahead, then if that person was out, it was even more detrimental to our production. But also, I think the quality of our production was suffering. And so Chris and I thought, well, okay, if we were 2 weeks ahead, that means we had our content not only planned out, but produced and scheduled for the next 2 weeks. Then we could like breathe.
Yeah.
We could breathe and we could plan even better content. and we could really just, I think, have a more positive, creative atmosphere. Creativity is so hard to force. It can't happen under stressful conditions. And I could see that was like impacting the team. So we decided to implement this. Like, we're going to get 2 weeks ahead and we're going to do it in 2 weeks, which is crazy because that actually means we're going to be creating about 28 to 30 pieces of content in the next 2 weeks.
Because we were also coming back from a break. So we were going to be still posting, still creating content, but you're also creating content for next week and the week after.
Yeah. And then, you can't just say, oh, we're going to create content for the next 2 weeks, because then in 2 weeks, you're not 2 weeks ahead. So it was like kind of this new way of thinking. And we said we wanted to incentivize it. And so this is actually when our Fridays off started, because we said, not only do we want to be 2 weeks ahead and get like that kind of lifted off of everyone, but in the name of like sustainability, meaning I wanted to make this a career path for not only myself, but all of our team members, that they could see themselves doing for the long term. You can't burn out in a year and then, we're constantly replacing people. Like, we're always like, we want this to be a longevity team. And so we said, if we can get 2 weeks ahead and stay 2 weeks ahead, then we can have Fridays off. All we did in those 2 weeks, because at that point I was like, okay, I'm going to create something today. We're going to photograph it today and we're going to write it today, all for tomorrow. And at that point, we had a decade of content that we had done this with. And we said, let's start looking back at what we've already photographed, what we've already talked about, and how can we repurpose this content into new content. So we were not like starting from scratch, and that's kind of when the mindset shift happened, where it wasn't like, okay, today we're going to talk about this and tomorrow we're going to talk about this separate subject. We started looking at, okay, let's talk about like hierarchies, themes. So maybe this week, you could take it a week or a month at a time, or even a quarter at a time. Now we talk more about like topics as a quarter, but I believe at this point it was kind of like a week. Like, we would say, okay, this is rug week. And so we would think about all the different things that we could cover under rug week. And we would say, okay, let's talk about mixing and matching rugs. Let's talk about the best rug pads for each kinds of rugs. Let's talk about how to utilize like small area rugs in unconventional places in your homes. Let's give them a roundup of large budget friendly area rugs. And then let's show some UGC. Let's show it in like other people's homes and what we like about it. Or maybe we can review something in our house. And we really started to dissect all of our ideas and break them out into multiple ideas. And at first, when we started doing this, we could only stretch it like a week. Like, that's just how our minds went. Now we were going from a day to like, okay, let's stretch it a week. And then the more that we practice this, we're like, wait, I think that we can stretch this content out for a month. Like, we could actually talk about like floors for a month. And then now we're like, hey, what if we talked about, instead of like floors for a month, what if we talked about like the theme of making your backyard your retreat, like your own personal retreat? And what's everything that happens under there? And now we're planning content for a quarter at a time. Once you do this, I think your mind is going to be so much more open to the possibilities of how to stretch your content, but also I think your audience is going to be so much more invested because they are going to be along with you for this ride. I remember one quarter we literally talked about like cleaning for a whole quarter, and it like cleaning and organizing and the products that we use and cleaning like difficult things and cleaning sofas and floors. And it's like your audience is so on board with that, and you are not thinking and pivoting every single day, which is going to lead to intense burnout.
Right. I have to say also the 2 weeks ahead in 2 weeks was it was the employees' decision. You guys said we want to be 2 weeks ahead. And once we are 2 weeks ahead, we can start taking Fridays off. We were the ones who were like, we'll do it in 2 weeks. Don't worry.
Yes.
So we put that on ourselves.
I think that is just such a testament to our team and why I knew that we could do this. Now, there were like bumps, obviously. It did not go perfectly. And I think that it's still, all these years later, we're still sometimes pivoting last minute.
Right. We go over, in every Monday meeting, we go over the 2 week calendar. So we always know what's coming. Not to say that things won't change, but then at least we all know kind of what we're shooting for this week. So I guess that brings us to the conversation of that 2 weeks, being ahead in 2 weeks at a certain point didn't work for us anymore. And do you remember what about it really didn't work?
Well, I think that there were aspects that worked, and then there were aspects that didn't work. Part of the aspects that didn't work had to do with like our specific niche, which is home renovation. A lot of like our projects, if they involve outside sources, either we're hiring a contractor, we ordered something, those have variabilities, right? Like maybe the contractor that we hired didn't show up or is running behind or things like that. Or the product that we ordered didn't show up or got back ordered or arrived damaged. And so now this thing that we've been planning on going live on this date doesn't work anymore. And so you have to have something evergreen in the can. We say the can a lot. We say, we have all these little things that we say according to content, but we have to have something ready that's evergreen. And I think Chris Loves Julia has always been like very in the moment. And so I wanted to make sure that our content could remain feeling very in the moment and not staged in any way. And I did catch myself at times, if I'm recording 2 weeks ahead, that energy was not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized in this moment that 2 weeks ahead on some of our platforms, like our website, makes a lot of sense. Our sponsorships makes a lot of sense. Like we can do those 2 weeks ahead. We can get our blog posts done 2 weeks ahead. And it really took changing our mindset to each platform has its own timeline. Because story content should feel in the moment. It should feel really behind the scenes. And at that point, everything was connected. Our stories were connected to our feed, was connected to our website and our newsletter. And everything that we were creating was very intertwined, our YouTube channel. And it took me personally a long time to feel good about disconnecting those things. That each channel that you create should feel exclusive in a way for your audience. Like they will have to follow you on stories if they want to see this aspect or this project. If, our website is going to have every detail about every source and the full like written story. It's very cataloged and searchable, and it's really kind of our home base where if anyone had a question about anything we've ever done, I want them to be able to search it and find it. And then our in feed is really like our high level portfolio, to attract new clients, audience members. And once I separated those things, I realized that, okay, what should be 2 weeks ahead? We're working on product lines a year ahead. And so my mind could always do that. And once I started really breaking down where I personally felt like I didn't need to be 2 weeks ahead, which, stories, we kind of have a rough idea of what we're putting in feed, 2 weeks ahead, because again, those don't always have to be connected to stories.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a little bit more flexible than what's going on the blog or other video content that we create, and definitely doesn't have to be connected to our sponsorships. And so that was like a really big learning curve for me.
Something you mentioned that I've been seeing a lot of questions, especially when, we had that clip from the podcast where you were like, if you want to grow, you should be posting 6 to 7 times a week in feed. And people were losing their mind. I'm like, guys, you don't realize over half of that can be made with recycled content. We're not saying get your camera out and film. And I feel like that's like getting 2 weeks ahead in 2 weeks. It was that time when we realized like this mountain of content we were sitting on and how that can be reused for every single department.
We also count that like our trial reels that we post. We're posting 6 to 7 times a week in feed, but that includes trial reels. And guess what we're using for our trial reels? All of our viral reels that we've already posted. We are reposting those as trial reels and getting thousands of new followers every day because we're like, well, this was successful. Let's repost this as a trial reel. Now, trial reels do not go to your current audience. They are only served to people that aren't currently following you. They may have never seen this content before. It's likely they never have, or maybe they've seen it and they never followed you. But chances are, if they see it again, like your most viral content, they're not going to be mad about it. They're going to be like, oh, wow, this video. Yeah, I remember this. Maybe they'll give you a follow. And so that is included in our 6 to 7 times a week. A lot of those, anytime that we create a reel, we create a carousel version of that reel with text on it and, sometimes 20 slides in it. And those have been really converting really well for us. And we started doing that when we saw like, okay, this reel did really well. Let's make it into a carousel. And guess where all of this came from? Or maybe this carousel did really well. Let's find the clips through it and make it into a reel. And a lot of our carousels come from old blog posts that we wrote on our website. So we recently did a carousel on a blog post that we wrote, I think in 2017. One of our most popular blog posts, it was like 10 ways to fall in love with your home. And they were thought starters. It was 10 bullet points that's just been sitting on our website. And it's a moving piece of content that's, on our blog in the archives from years and years and years ago. And we plucked that. We put exact words that we wrote in the blog post on carousel that, with more recent photos, it hit so hard. And now we can take that, in a couple weeks and we say, could we put the same text over a reel and see how it does? Sure. Why not? And when I say, post 6 to 7 times a week, you do not have to you're not creating 7 new pieces of content with 7 different ideas. It could be repurposing content, or just literally reposting content that you've already done.
Yeah.
I just think like consistency is the biggest thing that I've preached since I started Good Influencer 8 years ago, is just like, you have to be consistent. And I think there's 2 ways to do that. One is to burn yourself out running into the ground like we were doing all those years and just producing new content every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Or you can be consistent by repurposing content and ideas that were your best ideas.
Yeah. We even an example from this week in Slack, they were talking about how they weren't going to have time to shoot Chris Cooks this week. There were too many things going on. There was just not going to be time. So they're like, well, let's just pull from the archives. Let's do a roundup of, these kinds of meals from the archives. We have so much Chris Cooks content on the blog that people may have not seen before. People really need to see something 3 to 5 times before they remember it.
Yes.
And that goes for affiliates too. Don't be afraid to keep sharing the same links because people sometimes need to see it a lot of times.
Oh my goodness. I swear, I find out what your bread and butter links are that people buy over and over. It's like, well, our audience already, 20,000 people from our audience already bought this. Is it really worth posting again? Yep. Because miraculously, they just see it and that's the time that they're going to do it. And you know what? I'm going to give you one exception to if people see something 3 to 5 times, that's when they're going to remember it. Because one time, I said I might move the fireplace in my living room to another wall and open it up as all windows. And every time I show my living room, I get DMs saying, I thought you were moving your fireplace. I'm like, guys, that was one time in stories 4 years ago. And apparently everyone was on stories that day and never again. And never again were they on stories until I show my living room again. And they missed the entire renovation. They missed all the living room plans. All they remember is that one time I said it. It's so funny.
Well, I got this question in the mastermind. And she said, what have y'all found to be the simplest, most efficient, and cost-effective way to plan out your content in order to stay consistent? I'd really like to visually see what I'm planning to post. And the year that we decided we wanted to be 2 weeks ahead, we also got a very visual content calendar that we shared amongst the team. And in my mind, a content calendar is the best thing you can do for yourself to create sustainable content, because when you are thinking about what am I going to post tomorrow, like Julia said, it's really hard to be creative. But if you have 2 weeks of content in front of you, it becomes very easy to swap things in and move things around if needed. For when we're talking about not being able to shoot Chris Cooks, we were able to see, we are talking about a lot of end of summer things that week going back to school. So what if we did a burger roundup? That makes sense with all the content we have going live. It's so much easier to pivot when you have all of that content on the calendar and you can see it. And, we have it in a way that we can see what's going in feed, what's going on the blog, what's going in stories. And then it allows everyone to also kind of fill in other pieces of content. Like you, Julia, you can fill in any stories you want to put in, or affiliates can do some reactive links. I think it's been so, to me, that's the key to sustainability, is having a content calendar.
Yeah, we use Asana for our content calendar. And it's been great. I think that there's a lot of programs out there that you can use. You can also start with your Google Calendar. And I would say make a list. If you're someone that you have a trip coming up and you're a fashion blogger, that trip you can talk about for literally months, even if you're only there for a week. As far as fashion content goes, I followed a fashion blogger for a long time, and she would say at the beginning of every month, she would do a month of outfits for the next month. And it was she would just show kind of remixing 10 to 12 items and into 30, full outfits, which was so fun. And now we say, okay, this is what I know I'm going to be doing. And so let's put the this is absolutely happening this day on the calendar, and then work backwards from that. I also think it's so much easier to queue something up on stories that day that we have on the calendar. Well, I used to think like, well, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about, so let's just wait and see. It's like, well, if something's on the calendar, that gives me something to talk about, like just change your mind around. So, yeah, that's been really great. If you just start even with a list, a bulleted list, and then, really flesh it out and then put it into either Google Calendar or Asana, and you can even color code it with like, okay, this is what could go on stories, this is what could go on feed, this is what could go on my website. TikTok, I'm going to do this. Affiliates, this would be a great way to earn affiliates with all of these things. All of a sudden, you have a full content calendar, and we love to batch shooting our content. So, for instance, really pulling back the curtain here, but like every other Thursday, we have a shoot day, and it's all day. Okay. This is not like we're going to be shooting for a couple hours, which this was another major change that we made, in the last year, honestly. It's like, what if we didn't shoot content every day? And, and then it was like, okay, what if we shot every week? And then it was kind of like, well, what if, in some quarters you're going to need to, like Q4, you might need to shoot every week.
Right.
When things get busy. But it's like, what if we just looked at everything we wanted to post and kind of clumped it together into 2 8-hour shoot days? Wouldn't that be nice if you could just shoot every other Thursday all day, and then you have your content for the month? And it took us like getting organized with like, okay, put it on the shot list. Put it on the shot list. Let's put it on the shot list. All of our sponsorships and things that we want to put on the website and all of that. And it has been so, so nice for the whole team because we have new images frequently, and we have a more high-level view of what we're going to be talking about, which allows us to be really creative. Instead of like producing every day, I like save that energy for those Thursdays, and I can make those days like my really polished days. And then the other days, I love to show up in my content like really organically and less polished. And sometimes like I just post a reel when I want to again, and it's okay. And that's like a part of the job too, but you have to have a backbone that you can fall back on. That's for those days when you don't feel like making organic content.
Yeah. The only reason that shooting twice a month works is because we have eyes on what the next 2 weeks of content are going to look like.
Yes.
If I know I'm not getting another shoot day for 2 weeks, then I need to look out and see, okay, then here's the list of things that we need to shoot for this week. And I think we're also coming up on a time of year where being able to see 2 weeks ahead, a month ahead, 2 months ahead is really important because there's so much holiday content coming up. There's back to school, there's Labor Day, then we're going to have, fall content's already starting, then it's Halloween, then it's Thanksgiving, and it's gift guides, and it's Christmas. And being able to visualize that on the calendar, putting those big dates in there and then filling in content around it is going to be so much easier than stressing out because it's November. You don't have any gift guides. You don't have any content for gift guides. Maybe you're late to the game on fall content, and then you're late to the game on Halloween content. And I think things start to get a lot more jumbled.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the time of year you need a content calendar. Trust me.
Trust me. And honestly, we like take notes for the year, and we think, okay, last year we went live with our holiday content November 15th, and we're like, this felt late.
Mm-hmm.
And then we say like, let's put it live this day. And now we're like looking and we're like, no, why does it say that our holiday shop should go live on October 30th. That seems too early. We're like, well, we made that note last year in November. And so maybe, we knew something. Our past selves were warning us that this is when we should, put it live.
Move it up.
And so you just learn. And you have to be ahead of the game when it comes to the holidays, because people are looking to you for inspiration and guidance on what trends are for this year. And no matter how type B you are, like, to be a successful influencer and you are someone that people look to, then you have to be ahead. Even if that doesn't mean you necessarily have to start posting about the holidays in your Instagram, on October 30th, but be prepared with all of your gift guides and be prepared with what your theme for that year is going to be and what trends you're seeing, and have your affiliates ready and have your, inspiration set, and you're just going to feel so much better. And so those are things that you can even start thinking about now.
Yeah. So your homework for this week, get yourself a content calendar and plan out the next 2 weeks of content. But over 50% of that can be recycled. So start thinking outside of the box of ways to reuse that content. I promise you'll thank yourself for it. It'll be a lot more fun. Those posts that you are creating for the first time will be a lot more fun to create. You'll be more excited about it. Give it a shot. Try it out. Let us know. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. But we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye. Until next time, follow us on YouTube and Instagram at Good Influencer. And if you're ready to join a whole community of influencers growing organically and getting paid to do what they love, join the Good Influencer Mastermind by visiting our website, good-influencer.com. If you're going to be an influencer, be a good one.